people that vote with their dollars are gonna dictate what kind of movies they want to see. Would you cast Marie Antoinette as a African American, just like Netflix did? Warner Brothers are not doing great.
No.
You know what I mean?
So I'll take over.
Yeah.
I'll take over from here.
Would you consider hiring a white person to act, to be as an MLK in your movie? Let's talk about SAG
Yeah.
and the Writers Guild.
Yes. Kidding me? My mom used to say, I remember when I asked for a pager, I wanted a beeper. And she said, what do you need a beeper for? Are you like doing drugs or something? I've actually started going to church again, which is incredible. And when I went the other day, it was really the first time. So I'm glad that you asked that, because I literally just wept. I just wept. I have so much gratitude that I'm healthy, that I have a wonderful family, that I'm here, that I'm able to hopefully change the world through film.
So, Diane, we've been emailing each other for, I believe, 3 months already.
Yes.
And finally we met and we're doing a podcast. I would like to start with a compliment. You look amazing.
Thank you.
And you've got 19-year-old and a 13-year-old.
17-year-old.
17-year-old?
Yeah, 17 and 19.
Oh, yeah. My bad. 17 and 19 years old.
Yeah.
That's like 19 years old. If I saw your photos, I would say that you are two friends. Maybe he could even be your boyfriend. Really? So I've lived in Lithuania for 30 years. Then we moved to Spain for 2 years. Now we're here in Los Angeles, in California. So I was always wondering, how do those people in Hollywood, in LA, in sunny areas look so young? Do you think that's because of the sea of vitamin D?
Yeah, I
How
think
can you
it's.
manage to do
I
this?
think it's a. I think I was a young mom, so I think that really helped. And I think that I just have always taken care of myself. I grew up with parents who were very into eating healthy and working out, and that's always been very much a part of my life. So, and I think it's just, I don't know, genetics, I guess.
So your father is 88 years old.
Yes.
And he's a personal trainer.
Yes.
Tell me about your father, because that's so interesting. He's almost 90. He still trains, and he trains people.
Yeah.
And he specializes in working with clients that has Parkinson's, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
How did he end up working with clients? Was his profession for decades?
So, no, he actually was in insurance for a very long time. And my dad is who I get all of my musical and movie traits from, because he loves music and he loves movies. So we used to watch old movies like Katharine Hepburn movies together, or John Wayne movies when I was growing up. So I owe that all to him.
And that were old movies even back then, like 30 years ago,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, exactly. Because, I mean, in many ways, they could have been my grandparents with the age that they were, but they had 6 children. And I came 18 years after my oldest sister. So I truly am the baby of the family. And my dad was in insurance, and he was always working a lot of different jobs, quite frankly, because he had 6 mouths to feed. And at some point, I want to say in around the late 70s for him, in his age, he actually, the job let him go. They were like, basically, you're too old to keep working. And he was like, what are you talking about? I'm too old. I'm awesome. I'm fit. I'm great. So he decided to actually get his training certificate to train seniors, and specifically people with Parkinson's. And I'm just so proud of him, because to be that age and to decide, I'm going to completely turn around and create a whole new career out of this. It's just incredible, and a testament truly to who my parents are. They've always been very hardworking people, and have always been, show up, do your best, be professional. They've always said that. So for me, that's where my work ethic comes from, directly from them.
Old style American way, right?
Yeah.
And who was your mother? Who is your mother?
My mother is an amazing woman. Her name is Connie, and she has taught at St. Michael's Catholic School in Union, New Jersey for the last 50 years. She's celebrating 50 years this year.
Wow.
Which is incredible. Yeah.
So you had 5 siblings. That came from a very Catholic church, very Catholic family, religious family.
Yes. I grew up very Catholic. I was an altar girl. I did all of the things. I went to CCD, I did confirmation, all of that. So it was very much a part of our childhood, was the church, yeah.
What about now?
Interestingly enough, I think I went through a period of time when I first came to Los Angeles, and I kind of shunned religion altogether. I was just like very independent, and I just didn't want to be told what to do. You go through that period of time. And now that I am older and I'm starting to want a relationship again with God, and I think specifically as a Catholic child growing up, I actually never really felt a connection to God. So now I'm trying to find that in my own way. And I've actually started going to church again, which is incredible. And when I went the other day, it was really the first time. So I'm glad that you asked that, because I literally just wept. I just wept.
What's that?
I think it was such a beautiful feeling to be able to feel like this is my opportunity to find God in my own way now as an adult. And it's been really special. I've gone through a lot of different things in my life, and I feel like this is sort of my renaissance now of coming through and deciding, okay, this is the type of spirituality I want to have in my life.
And you've almost, or I can even say, you found God when you were in your highs, not the lows, right? Because it's easy to find God when you're on the bottom,
Yes.
when nothing is going great, maybe some problems financially, maybe with the
Yes.
health, maybe with family, etc. But it's so fascinating to me when people find God when everything is good for them, and it's like a gratitude, right? I'm so thankful for everything that I have.
Yeah.
So we're kind of seeking who to thank that for that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the thing is, though, is that we're never truly up or down. I think life is a series of ebbs and flows. And I think even when everything is going really fantastically, there are plenty of things that are going on in my life that maybe aren't so great. But I have so much gratitude that I'm healthy, that I have a wonderful family, that I'm here, that I'm able to hopefully change the world through film. And I think that that's really the place of gratitude where I'm at. And I think it's important that we all have a spiritual outlet, whatever that means. It doesn't have to be certainly religion. It doesn't have to be church. It doesn't have to be that. But I do think finding a higher power for yourself is extremely important.
All right, so let me get this straight. This is summer and you always want to have something to drink, something very sweet, but that has no calories or has just a few calories, right? When you go for soda, you get either aspartame or ACE, which are horrible sweeteners, artificial sweeteners that are bad for your health, or you get a lot of sugar. And if you want to be in shape, stay in shape, get in shape, you don't need that amount of sugar in your drink, right? So what are your options? Well, the best choice is Caged Hydrocharge. What's that? That's a sports drink with no sugar. Let's take a look at the ingredients list. In one serving, we've got 5 calories, we've got calcium, we've got phosphorus, we've got magnesium, we've got sodium, we've got potassium, which are electrolytes, we've got taurine, which is good for your hydration and for your energy. We've got coconut fruit water powder, which is amazing for your hydration in these hot summer days, and not only. And you've got Spectra Total OREC Blend. That's a mixture of a lot of vegetables and fruits extras, which are very good for your body. Just as usual, guys, you go to cage.com, you use discount code APOLLO, APOLLO, and you will get 15% additional discount on all Caged products. And by the way, the Hydrocharge has 2 amazing new flavors. This one is hibiscus pear. It tastes amazing, I'm telling you. It tastes amazing. It has stevia extract as a sweetener and just a tiny bit of sucralose. You gotta try it out. No sugar, it has taurine, it has electrolytes, it's good for your body. Try it out. Cage.com, discount code APOLLO, and you will get 15% additional off any of those products. You definitely should try the new pear or lemon lime flavor. And now let's get back to the podcast. How do you process all the things that are going on right now in the world? For example, well, I can say certainly that I almost found God because of the things that are happening in the world. For example, I see the performance-wise when people perform on the stage and they worship Satan, the devil, right? So, right, for example, 10, 20 years ago, that was like they were kind of hiding. They're not even hiding anymore. I see all the evil that is going on, especially after 2020, after the COVID hit. And I kind of understood that if that's certain evil. So if there's certain evil, there should be certain good, right? So what's the best, what is the real good, the God.
Yeah.
So how do you process all the craziness that is happening in the world right now?
Oh man, I mean, I think, having a spiritual practice, having a routine that you're doing, eating well, exercising, having good relationships, these are really important things to keep us grounded and keep us moving forward, because I don't think in the history of any time there has ever been a time truly when everything is just perfect. I mean, it just doesn't work that way. Life is not that way. And I think we just have to find the good moments, and that's why family is so important. And friendships are so important, and keeping those relationships really good. And, I feel like, I don't know, in some ways for myself anyway, I feel like we've sort of come out of this phase, and we're all ready to have something new, and we're all sort of just kind of going along, going like, there's more to life, and there's more to everything. And I want to be a part of that. I want to be part of those movements that make people feel like they can do whatever they want to do while they're here. Because life is short, truly. It really is.
Yeah, COVID told us that can be pretty short.
Yeah.
But when you said that there is so much more to this life, but we can go either way, the good way or the bad way, right?
Yeah.
And when we see riots, when we see, for example, in LA, that has never been LA the safest area in California even, right?
Correct.
So right now LA is pretty dangerous. But if we go north, Oakland and San Francisco, Bay Area,
Yep.
that's a mess.
Yep.
Literally.
Yes.
They're robbing. Yesterday or a few days ago, I saw the car pulled out. They robbed a guy, an old guy who was selling ice cream.
No.
Can you imagine this?
No.
And
That's terrible.
and I was seeking for the answers, like, why do people do this?
Yeah.
They haven't been doing this like 5 years, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Something switched.
Mm-hmm.
And I was looking for the answers. And I'm searching for the answers right there.
Yes.
Up in the sky.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think also too, there has been so much uproar over the last couple of years, certainly. I think both in good and bad ways. I think that we are recognizing that things are not fair for everyone. And I think that people are tired of it. And, unfortunately, not everybody grows up with parents who share good values. Some people are left just to figure it out on their own. That's really hard. And I think what we can do is have compassion for people and understand that not everybody is going to be able to have such a great childhood, or they have trauma and they need help. And we do need mental health advocacy. We really do have to say to people, it's okay to want to get help, and certainly I don't agree with people stealing or doing anything like that or hurting other people in any way, shape, or form, but I think it's a bigger issue. I think the issue truly is that we do not support mental health enough, even from the time we were children. That was something that we never talked about when I was a kid. It's really only like the last 10 years we talk about self-love and self-care and mental health, and that was just not something we talked about. So I do think that is something that we are talking about more, and I hope that we can continue to get programs for people that if they don't have the means to do it, that we can get them into something to at least talk to somebody. Sometimes that's what it is. They just need to say, hey, this is what's happened to me. This is what's gone on, and I don't know how to handle it.
Did you get bullied in the school?
I did. I did get bullied. When I was a little kid, I had very giant glasses, and I was always very friendly, and I always had big dimples, and I was always smiling. But I think I was a really nice kid, and I think sometimes when you're a really nice kid, you get pushed around a lot. Yeah, exactly. And I was called Four Eyes and that kind of stuff, all that kind of stuff. But you know what? I realized it was never truly about me. It was about the other person, and I knew that even as a kid. And I think growing up with older people, I sort of had a different confidence because I already had built-in friends, more or less. I didn't really have to go out searching, to find friends. I already had siblings that were much older than me that really, kind of kicked me around and were telling me what to do. And I basically had 5 moms and dads, including my mother and father. So I just, I never let it get to me. I really didn't. But I definitely went through that as a kid, and I think I found performance very young. I've been performing literally since I've been 8 years old. So I think finding that also gave me a confidence that maybe other people didn't have when they were young. So I never looked for it through other people. I was always able to kind of find that through myself, and performance helped me get there.
Your family is very extraordinary family, well, because 6 kids,
Yeah.
and the gap between you and the oldest kid was 18 years old.
Yeah.
Now, the question would be such. Uh, you were very young mom. You were very young when you became first-time mom.
Yeah.
Do you think it's better to become, from your stand of view, it is better to become mom at 20, or just like your parents did at 50, though you were not the first child?
Right.
Because with the age comes a lot of wisdom, right?
Yes.
But that kind of energy that the 20, the 30-year-olds have.
Yeah, I think I appreciate that I had children young, because I think that I was able to do all the things with them, running around after them. And more or less, I want to say, hindsight is 2020, and sort of like I just didn't know any better. So I was just doing it based on, it was a necessity. I had to take care of my children, and I wanted them to have the very best things. But I do think that my mother had me when she was my age. Right now, I'm 43 years old. And I think about that now, like having a child, a brand new baby right
Yeah.
now. And I'm like, wow, that would be so wild. But I do think that I have a lot more wisdom now. So my mother was very different with me than she was with all of my siblings. Because I think by the time she got to me, she was just like, oh, I've been there, done that, So they were very chill with me. Like my parents were very chill growing up, more or less. And my siblings had parents that were like very, very strict. So I think that they just sort of understood whether or not it's good or bad to have that as, have a young parent or an older parent. I don't really know. I think that there's good and bad to both things. I really do. I think that you know more as you're older.
Yeah.
But I think that you definitely have more energy when you're a young person having children. So throughout my 20s, I mean, I don't remember anything of my 20s other than raising my children.
Did your parents help you?
Yes. I raised my kids here in Los Angeles, and my parents live in New Jersey. So they weren't exactly close, nearby, but we definitely went, and we spent time with them. And my parents are extremely supportive, amazing people. So they've always just been incredible, since for the moment I was born. They've been there, and they've supported everything that I've done, and they love their grandchildren. I think my mom and dad have 13 or so grandchildren. So
Wow. Can you imagine how many gifts do they have to buy for
yes.
Christmas?
We have very big family functions, I will tell you that. There's a lot of people in the room.
You lived in an apartment or a house?
We grew up in a house. The house that I grew up in, my parents still live in to this day. They bought it in 1963, and it's changed over the years. They have definitely renovated it and did that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's still the same house. So when I go home, it's like it's home.
Wow.
Yeah.
So they bought a house when they got married, because your
Yes.
parents are together more than 60 years.
Yeah.
Can you share some wisdom or from them, maybe some tips how to be together for 60 years?
Yeah.
Because there are times when you can get even 3 years together, right? 5 years, 10 years, maybe max 20. 60 plus years together, six
Yeah.
kids
It's a
still
lot.
together.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, I always tell them they're dinosaurs, because it's a very rare thing nowadays. The divorce rate is so high.
Yes.
And
50%.
I look at them and I'm like, wow. I do ask them often, how did you do it? And, they'll always joke and say, well, we just ignored each other at certain points and things like that. But I think really, truly what it comes down to is having respect for the other person. And I think my parents did that always. My mom always had her own things going on. She had friends, and she was always involved in things, and so did my dad. And I think having two whole people come together is the most important thing. You have to be able to do your own thing, and they have to be able to do their own thing. And then you come together, and it gets even better. And I think that's the secret. And, hopefully I will figure that out. I'm a hopeless romantic, and I will, get married again or whatever. So yeah, it's a constant thing. You have to work on a relationship. It doesn't just go like that. You have to work at it.
So your mother did her thing, your dad did his thing. Well, he worked a
Yeah.
lot, six kids,
Yes.
and they still managed to parent six kids.
Yeah.
That's so incredible because I have only one child, and sometimes I feel like I can do this, I can't do this because of him, because of his interest, because he should do this and
Yeah.
that. But then I figured out, and just talking to people, just like for example, like you, who has two kids or
Yeah.
even more kids. The more kids you have, the easier it
The
gets.
easier it gets.
Yeah.
It's so true. That's so funny, and I think you sort of find your way. You really do. In the beginning, it's not easy, certainly, especially the first year or two. You're just like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I'm not even sleeping.
Yeah.
And now I have friends that are now having children, and I'm like, just enjoy every minute, because before you know it, they're big kids, and they're out of the house then, and it's just like, oh my gosh, my little baby. So I think people, you just have to enjoy it, but also it's really important to always have your own identity. And that's something that I've come to realize now that my children are older. Yes, I'm their mother, but I'm also Diane. And I also have interests and things that I love that are beyond just being their mom. And I think that's been the most important understanding that I have come to, is that, I'm here on my own journey as well. Very important.
Do you think family is still a value for Americans?
Yes, I do. I hope so. I mean, I like to believe that, certainly, in that idea that, family is everything. That's how I was taught. And we would do anything, for your family. I think that hopefully what is happening is that, we're becoming a society of more understanding that you have to also be okay, and that's why I bring in the whole mental health aspect, because even if your family is everything, you still have to do the work to be okay with yourself. It can't sometimes just come from you have a great mom and dad. You have to do the work, whether that's talking to a therapist or finding a spirituality or whatever it is that works for you, to say, hey, you know what, I've been through some things. I had my childhood. I went through, my life, and I want to learn how to be a good person in the world and show up for others and myself. And I'm hoping that that's what people are doing nowadays. I see it, and I see it in the world. So I think that we can continue to move that way.
Let's talk about rituals, okay? When I get up, I get a glass of water. Just drink a glass of water. When I go to sleep, I get a glass of water as well. For example, before I go to the gym, I get a pre-workout. And right before I go to sleep, like 30 minutes before I go to sleep, I just go with gogreenhemp.com CBD oil. I just take one little dropper 30 minutes before I go to sleep. It tastes amazing. You've got it THC free, you've got it non-GMO, you've got it third-party lab tested, and this natural CBD oil helps you fall asleep right away, just like this. Go to gogreenhemp.com, use discount code APOLLO, APOLLO, and you will get even 30% off every product on gogreenhemp.com. It is proudly made in the United States of America. You should definitely try this. gogreenhemp.com, discount code APOLLO. And now, let's get back to the podcast. You see, I believe the biggest problem I'm a foreigner, right? I'm from Lithuania. I've lived in Lithuania for 30 plus years.
Wow.
I believe the problem with this is that all we see about the US is what is happening in LA, maybe Chicago, maybe right now Florida for a few years, and New York. That's it. And we think of that's the America, right?
That's it.
If there are some riots or some bullshit is going on in those cities, that's whole America.
Yeah.
But America is not like these 5 cities, right?
No,
America is
so
much
much
bigger,
bigger.
so much bigger, and there's still a lot of religious people. There are a lot of people that have values in their values. Family is their value. They still have children. They have a lot of children, just like the Mormons do.
Yes.
They have 6, 8, 10, and more children.
Yeah, I think you could do that back in the day, like when my parents were raising children. All their friends had 6 to 8 kids, because it was cheaper to live. Nowadays it's like more expensive to live. So even having one child, it's very expensive. And I think, the money thing, the financials, it's very difficult, especially to live in a big city and to be a parent and to be chasing your dreams, and all those things start to add up. So I think finding a balance is really, really important. And I just think that people nowadays, you just don't have as many kids because, again, it's more expensive to do it.
Yeah, back in the day, you didn't have to buy 3 iPhones for 3 kids every 2 years, right? One phone,
Exactly.
that's
That's
it,
it.
the line.
Well, are you kidding me? My mom used to say, I remember when I asked for a pager, I wanted a beeper. And she said, what do you need a beeper for? Are you like doing drugs or something? I'm like, no, I just want to talk to my friends, you know? And then came along the Razor. I remember I had the Razor phone, the
Motorola,
Motorola,
yeah.
you know, and then they had the BlackBerry, which I never got. And it just, you know, each year it got into something else. And of course, now we have Samsung and iPhone and all this stuff. And who knows what will happen in the future, but
I want to touch on one more topic from your, like, I believe that was almost 15, maybe 20 years ago.
yeah.
You were the original, the Pussycat doll.
Yes.
Tell me about it. That was even back then, before that there was a music artist
Yeah, before
called.
they were a girl group.
Yeah.
hmm You know, it was really fun. I first came to Los Angeles when I was 21 years old, and I was a professional dancer in New York City. I had done a lot of theater, I had done a lot of acting, and dancing was sort of my main thing. So I knew when I came here that I could get jobs doing dancing and, you know, music videos, that kind of thing. And I was at a dance class, and this woman, you know, says to me at the end of the dance class, "Who are you and where are you from?" And I said, "I'm Diane. I grew up in New Jersey, but I've been studying in New York." And she's like, "You are such a fantastic dancer. Would you like to be part of my show that I'm doing? It's
Mhm.
called the Pussycat Dolls." And I said, "That sounds kind of fun. Sure, you know, I'll do it." And show up to rehearsal. And what it ended up being was a show at the Roxy in Hollywood. And it was sort of like a burlesque type variety show where we had 12 girls who were all the original Pussycat Dolls. And we did dances. We had sailor boys. We did these fantastic dances in these really cute outfits, very much like the Pussycat Dolls ended up being. But that woman was Robin Anton, and she created the Pussycat Dolls, and
Mhm.
she had always wanted it to be a girl group. So, you know, they started out doing this variety show, and who was in the show but Christina Aguilera, Carmen Electra, Dita Von Teese, I mean, you name it, Gwen Stefani. It was just all like Hollywood who's who back then.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, I can't believe this is my first job in
Mm.
Los Angeles.
You got lucky.
I got so lucky, and so many celebrities came to this because it was like the hottest ticket in town to do this. I remember Hugh Hefner and the Playboy Bunnies came, and at one point I went out into the crowd and I kissed him on the forehead. I was like, "Mwah, hi, Hef." And it was just such a fun, amazing time. And I think back about that now, and I'm like, wow, what an incredible first job to have in Los Angeles. You know, I didn't know anybody here, literally not a single
Mm.
soul. And that really, really helped me sort of open myself up to, you know, that I could make it here as much as all these other people. And even back then, I would say the most famous person at the time probably was like Christina Aguilera. She was still very much like doing stuff, you know, but just having all of these amazing people involved was incredible. And it was a lot of like Britney Spears dancers were in the groups. So it was just a really amazing experience. And then, of course, they went on to create the girl group. And for me, I always wanted to do independent film. So I did have the opportunity if I had wanted to stay on and sort of continue. And now I think about it and I'm like, damn, I should have.
Really?
Well, you know, I mean, I think in some ways, you know, it would have elevated my career on a completely different trajectory. So, you know, I won't say that it's something that I don't regret it at all, because I think for me, it was really important that I went into independent film. I was really an actress first. And then, of course, I ended up having children. So had I gone the other way, who knows
Yeah.
where my life would have led. But I can tell you it was such an incredible experience. And I'm so grateful to have had it, because it's one of those like sort of trivia things that, you know, I don't even think people knew that it started that way and that it was actually a show
Yeah.
first. So
But the Pussycat Dolls as a music entity, they didn't last long.
no.
They were very famous 2006, I believe,
Yep.
maybe a few years, a few hit songs, and
Yep.
that's it.
Yeah, they blew up like crazy, like wildfire.
Yeah.
Did really well, and then they just stopped. And I think a lot of it had to do with certainly with the personalities of the girls and the management and that kind of stuff. And as they sort of went into that, I didn't stay in touch with any of those people anymore, and I sort of went on to my own independent film journey. But just to see, what I was a part of to then what it became was just absolutely incredible. So
Well, Nicole is still doing some
yeah,
some
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, and I think they actually just went on tour not too long ago, where they had opened for in the UK or something like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the girls were back together again, so pretty interesting.
And they're still Pussycat Dolls?
Yeah, mm-hmm, yeah.
How did you end up knowing that you want to do independent films, independent movies? That was back from your childhood because you watched a lot of movies, but why independent? Why not Hollywood?
Always wanted to do Hollywood movies. It's just that independent film is much easier to get into. And I think that when I was starting out, I didn't even know what a producer was.
Mhm.
And I think that I really found that fascinating. And I also found that it was very much a part of my personality to want to do that. And the very first film that I ever made that I was the star of and also produced was called Iowa with Rosanna Arquette and John Savage. And it went to the Tribeca Film Festival. And I thought to myself, wow, well, we're off to the races here.
You're so blessed. First film, first event in LA.
Incredible. It just was sort of a series of like events. And I think I just knew, even when I was a child, and I just knew in my heart that I was meant to do this. I just knew it. I don't
To do
know how
what?
else to
To
say.
act or to produce?
To do it all, to make films, to act. There was a sense in me as a child growing up in New Jersey that I wouldn't stay there. I knew it as a kid, like at 7 years old. I was like, I'm not going to stay here.
Yeah, but when you were watching those movies, you watched the movies like an art or like a business or like, oh, how do they act? Oh, how the scene is being compiled, right? The lighting.
Right.
How did you look
I didn't think that. I just knew that I was going to be on the sets. Like I knew I was going to be doing what they were doing.
Wow. Did you tell this to your parents?
Mm-hmm,
What
yeah,
did they say?
They knew. They were really supportive. I mean, they tried for a while to get me into sports and like other things and like, just be a kid. But I always gravitated toward the theatrics. I was just always into, I want to make movies and I want to go to Hollywood. And I was very little, and there was a model agency that said to my mother, you should put her into modeling. And I think she thought about it for a little while, and then she decided not to, because she really wanted me to have a childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grateful to my parents that they did, because I don't think that my life would have been the same had I been working as a child. To me, I think that's very difficult to be a child actor. You're a child.
You're a child.
And it's difficult to work on sets. And I've worked with children before, and it's not easy. This is a fantasy world that we create. And I think to be a child not sort of understanding what that is, it can be hard, and that's why we see a lot of child actors have a very difficult time. So I'm grateful to my parents that I had a very wonderful childhood, and that I got to perform, and I got to do a lot of different plays and do that around the country. And I just appreciate that, but I also knew in my heart that I would do it. I knew I would move to California, and I just thought, I'm going to do what Marilyn Monroe does.
Speaking about children in Hollywood, did you see the Will Smith YouTube special series that he has done?
No, I have not.
It's an amazing series. It's called The Best Shape of My Life. So
Okay.
Simultaneously, he writes his book. He's
Mm-hmm.
he is writing his final chapters of his book, and he is losing some weight because he would for the role, I believe.
Okay.
So these two things happen simultaneously. And also, when he writes some chapters of his book, he has readings. So, for example, if there is a chapter of his book about his children, he films this. He filmed this. He invites his children, and he kind of reads his book and the chapter to that. Yeah, and
Very
that
cool.
was one special chapter of his book, which is amazing, by the way. He was speaking about his daughter. She was back then, I believe, 10 or 11 years old, and she was a musician. So she said she wanted to perform on stage, want to be a superstar. And
Yeah.
Will Smith said, "Okay, no problem, let's do this." So they had some songs. They go on a world tour.
Wow.
She's 10 or 11 years old. Willow Smith, yeah. And after one performance in London, I believe, she comes to Will Smith and says, "Daddy, I'm done." And he says, "Yeah, yeah, today we're done, but we got this, and that, and those cities to perform." No, no, she says, "Daddy, I'm done." And Will says that I didn't understand back then what she meant. So we went to the hotel. In the morning, I wake up. She wakes up and she is bald. Yeah, she got rid of all her hair
Wow.
just not to go on the stage.
Wow.
And he said that was the moment that I understood. She is just a child. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And that's it. They canceled.
Wow, incredible. And now she's had such an amazing career as being an adult.
Yeah.
Important for him to know that and to see it and to allow her to be a kid.
A kid.
Yeah, it's really important. That's the same thing with my kids. You know, they were in a little bit of a film that I did many, many years ago called The Orphan Killer, and they played little kids in it. But after that, I never put them in anything else. It was just a day and it was just a moment, and their dad happened to be also the writer and director of the film. So it was like, you know, being with mom and dad. And but I never pushed that on them, you know, ever, because I think you really have to want it and decide to do it. And nothing against child actors, of course. I know it's an important thing, certainly in a family dynamic in a film and stuff, you do need that. But I do think having a healthy balance and also having healthy parents to know the boundaries is very, very important. And that's something even on set, when I have had kids on set, you know, I always get to know the parents. And it's just important that they feel seen and heard and that they're there on set with the kids.
Yeah.
Very, very important.
Very important. I agree with you. For example, do you remember the 1999, I believe, The Phantom Menace, the Star Wars?
Yes.
And that was there was in a movie a kid. Do you know his story?
No.
He ended up being in an asylum.
Wow.
Yeah, he literally lost his mind. Yeah, that's crazy. We've got Macaulay Culkin, right?
Yes.
From the 90s. The dad that was a kind of an abuser, abusing him as a working force.
Yeah.
Didn't end well as well.
No, no. I mean, you could even go back to somebody like Michael Jackson. You know, he was a child star. You know, not you know, and certainly I don't know anything about all the things and allegations and stuff against him. But I mean, I think about that, and I'm like, my God, to be that young and to be that famous, and to, you know, it's just, you know, I think even as an adult, it's difficult to do that as a child. And have so many people around you and so many adults. It's just, you know, it's a very difficult thing. So you really, if you are a child actor or you want to put your children into acting, I think you really have to be okay as a parent, and you have to be willing to like be there 24/7 with them. That's what I think anyway.
Tell me more about acting, because as a casual movie lover, or just a guy who goes to the cinema and watches a movie, or watches a movie at home, what we see is, okay, so these superstars got 20 million per role, okay? Supporting roles have 5, 2, 3 million. Oh, that's a lot of money, right? They're millionaires. So they're so lucky they got this life to live. Tell me, how long does it take to act in a movie, from that standpoint, that how many hours a day you usually work on set? How hard it is physically, then how hard it is, or is it hard mentally? Just for for the viewers to understand that that's not an easy job to have.
Man, it is not an easy job at all. And you know, I think the thing is that what we see of actors is we get to see all of the glam and the wonderfulness of walking the red carpet and getting dressed up and looking fabulous and all of that, which is a great perk of the job. But most of the job is 18 to 20-hour days sometimes. I never like to keep people that long. I like to do at least, you know, 12 to 14 days max. But these are very, very long hours. You are,
12 to 14 hours a day.
yeah. Hmm.
9 to 5 is 8 hours
Yep.
plus 1 hour
Yep.
for lunch.
Yeah.
12, 14 hours.
Yes.
And most of the time you do what? You wait, right?
You wait around, yes. You wait around because what you're doing is, especially if you're an actor, you should obviously be preparing for the role depending on what it is that your character is doing that day. And sometimes that could be a very emotional scene. Sometimes it could be something where you're supposed to be very funny, whatever it is. Preparing for that as everybody else is setting up the lights and getting everything together, and that really takes time. So I tell people that if you want to go into the film business, just know that it is very, very hard work and it's very long hours. It's great fun and it's wonderful, and to create stories and do all of that, but you have to be willing to work really hard. And also, I think from an independent film level, you have to be willing to do the work that you might not want to do at first. Maybe production assistants or work for the producer in a way, doing things that might not be on set, and then you kind of work your way to being on set, because there is a culture of being on set, and if you've never been on a set before, then you might not know how it goes,
Yeah. Just
or
what
even
to
what
do.
people are talking about,
Yeah.
So it's really important. I always tell people, especially young people who are really interested in getting into film, get onto film sets, even if it's like a student film or independent film, and be useful, like be helpful, because that will help you get other jobs, and they will see, oh, this person is giving us hands, and they want to be interested. Be conscientious, be excited to be there, even when it's the 14th hour and you're just like done. It goes a long way of having a really great attitude, being on set. Everybody's tired, so hopefully, you do that, and people will see you, and they'll see that you're doing that, and before you know it, the jobs start to come, and then they want you to be on set because you're an asset.
Tell me about your hardest day of acting, not filming, but acting.
Hardest day acting ever. Let's see. There have been quite a bit of very hard times. I think the most difficult one was when I was doing the film Iowa. This was many years ago. I found out the first day of principal photography, which is the first day that you're shooting, that I was pregnant with my son. And I was playing a meth addict in the film Iowa.
Wow.
And I was so sick from morning sickness that it really didn't take a lot for me to look like a meth addict. That was such a difficult shoot for me because I was so incredibly sick the entire time, and my character went through so much in that film.
Did you tell that you're sick to your producers?
Oh yes, they knew.
They don't give a shit.
No. They were
And
like,
usually
okay,
they don't.
we get it, sure, here's a bucket and here's some water and good luck. But we just had to push through. And for me, I really wanted to always show up. I always want to show up in a great and positive way, because I think that's how you add value to anything that you're doing, and you should add value. And I didn't want I never wanted anything to hold me back from being my best self in whatever role that was. So that was really difficult. But, I've done a lot of different roles over the years, horror film especially. And sometimes those roles are very difficult. People don't realize how difficult it is being in a horror film. They think, oh gosh, so much fun. But getting blood poured on you and having to scream and, running away from the killer, these are all, it's a very physical acting job that you have to do. So you're exhausted you're doing that 12 hours all day long, sometimes for 24 days in a row. It's absolutely exhausting. So I would say those are the kinds of roles that I've had that are really difficult, just in terms of like the physicality even.
What do they substitute with blood? some pain, some sauce. What's that?
It's
Does it
actually
smell?
yeah, it does smell sometimes.
Good or bad?
It depends on the fake blood that you get. The Ben Nye makes a really great blood for on set. Some people like to make their own, where they make it with like strawberry sauce and corn syrup, but that gets very sticky.
Yeah.
So if you use professional stuff like Ben Nye blood, it washes right off. And it's so funny because I've had scenes where I've literally just been covered in blood, and
I
at
saw
the end
those
of the
photos.
day, I'm leaving the set, and I remember we were shooting in New Jersey, and in New Jersey, they pump your gas for you. It's not like here in Los Angeles where you get out and do it. You pull up to the gas
Yeah, yeah.
station and they do it for you. And I was covered in blood. And the guy was just like, "Oh my gosh, are you okay?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 I'm fine. I was just
But
at the
he's not.
hospital." And I'm like, "No, no, not at the hospital. We're filming at the hospital, and I'm fine. Just please fill the tank up." But, it's like that kind of stuff that, you don't even think about when you're doing it. It's just like, it's just not normal, but, you're a filmmaker, and you just, you just do it. So it's really fun, actually, making those kinds of films.
So when I read some stories, for example, how does James Cameron film his movies? So, for example, what he did during the Titanic,
Mm,
that they were standing in cold water,
yeah,
specifically cold water, just for the actors to feel,
yeah,
not to be like in a bath, right?
yeah.
But then I read some stories that, for example, there are long filming days in the desert.
Mhm.
Someone faints,
Yeah,
someone has problems with health, and when I see that there are A-listers, actors star in that movie, and they have difficulties
yeah,
in a desert,
yeah.
in a forest, in a jungle with the mosquitoes and etc. Before that, I would think that they got a lot of money. They're the stars. They kind
Sure.
of kill all the freaking mosquitoes, and nothing,
No,
nothing happens on that sets.
no.
That has nothing in common, right?
No, that doesn't happen. I think at certain levels, certainly that there's things that you can do, but I think that, number one, as an actor, you're a human being. I mean, that's where you should begin, is be a human, um, as an actor. So you're in the elements. I mean, it's just part of the job. You're on location, you're on set. Sometimes that's very cold, sometimes it's very hot. And you just have to get used to being somebody who is okay being in those situations. And that's why I say physicality is so important for an
Hmm.
actor. Getting your mind and your body right and okay is extremely important, because you sometimes are in the extremities, truly. And for me as an actor, I actually like that, especially if it's a very tough role. I mean, I've had to, literally get myself on a roof before, like, just, half naked, just completely covered in blood. I mean, crazy things that I've had to do. And I think part of being an artist and being an actor is you're also a survivor in some ways. And I think I always laugh and I say we're kind of like masochists, I guess, because we like doing this kind of stuff to ourselves. But there's a freeness in it that I find, certainly for myself, that putting myself through those things sometimes gets me to the truth of what I'm trying to convey in that character. And it's not always about what I personally have been through in my life. I don't actually sometimes have to go back and have a specific place that I've been or anything like that to get to a place. Sometimes it's actually just putting myself physically in that in that place for me to go there mentally.
So it's easier to convince a viewer that what you felt back in
Yeah,
that scene by being in that cold water
yeah.
or
It
in a
really
hot
does. It
desert.
really helps. Those elements really help.
Let's talk about your company, the Wally Bird.
Yeah.
How did you end up creating this company? And recently, a month ago, right? Your movie, My Home Unknown, was at the film festival.
Yeah.
How did you feel?
Oh man. just like just like that kid sitting at my parents' kitchen table watching Katharine Hepburn and going like, yes, it's happening. That's exactly how I felt. It was incredible. We had My Home Unknown premiered at the Chinese Theater in Hollywood, and just being there that day, walking and seeing all the footprints and the handprints of the Hollywood stars that have come before, it was just like, I just I just was so proud of that little Diane who was just like, I'm going to go to Hollywood and I'm going to make it happen. And just to be there was so incredible, to see the movie on the big screen, to see Wally Bird Productions at the front of the film. I mean, it made me feel like I was a little kid again watching a big Paramount movie or something like that, and seeing my company now there instead of MGM or Paramount or whatever. It was the most incredible feeling ever. I'm so grateful that I have had such a blessed and wonderful life to get to this moment. Um, and it's been absolutely incredible. And Wally Bird Productions has been the catalyst in doing that. And I started Wally Bird in 2018. I had been producing for many, many years, mainly as a freelance producer. And I just had always wanted to start a production company. I just thought that that was sort of like a natural ebb and flow of things, like that was the natural progression. And my brother passed away in 2018,
I'm sorry.
and his name is Wally, and we called him Wally Bird. And when I was thinking of my name for the company, it came to me like like a rocket. It was just like, Wally Bird, oh my God. And I called my parents and I said, would this be okay with you? And they both cried and they said, oh my gosh, yes, it would be incredible. Because my brother was a big fan of mine, and he used to talk to people about me and stuff, and they would tell me. He would never tell me, but they would tell me. And he would say, oh, your brother's so proud of you. And he would come to all of my shows, and he just was just my idol in so many ways. He was my only brother. And
What happened to him?
um, whew. He very tragically died in a car fire. There's a lot that surrounds it that is hard to talk about, but he was only 54 years old and has 4 children of his own, and that was very, very difficult, as you can imagine, for my parents, for my entire family.
It was an accident?
It was an accident, yeah. And we miss him, obviously, incredibly so much. And I can't believe that he is gone as long as he is. Sometimes it's just, very odd, But he's still with me so much. I mean, he's with me all the time. It's so crazy. And I'll even say to him, like, okay, Wally, I get it. Thank you. And I named the company in his honor because I really felt like it was important not only for me to honor his life that was cut short, but also to just have him know that I love him, and that I'm out here, and I'm and everything that he was and is to me, I will never forget. And he was and will always be a very important part of our family, and I will honor him for the rest of my life. And I miss him so much, but I have come to a sort of peace and understanding that it was his time, and we never know when that's going to be. And I think having him pass at such a young age, that's 54 is not old by any means. I think it makes you really appreciate the time that you do have here, and to try to make the most of it. So that's what I'm trying to do with Wally Bird. And I just have so many dreams and ideas of, I look at the Warner Brothers, water tower sometimes when I'm in Burbank, and I just see Wally Bird on the side of that.
Warner Brothers are not doing great.
No.
You know what I mean?
So I'll take over.
Yeah.
I'll take over from here. But I see Wally Bird becoming a film studio. I really do. I'm so excited for all that's ahead, and I want to change the world for the better through cinema, and I want to give people opportunities, and I believe that we can make this place wonderful. I believe that through film. I don't think that's pie-eyed, or that I'm too, I think about things too lovingly or anything like that, or too peace love.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think innately as humans we are good, and I think that we can do that, and we can make a difference by making films that matter. I believe that.
just like the recent movie Sound of Freedom.
Yes,
Did
I
you watch
haven't
it?
seen it yet. Please don't tell me anything about it,
You
but
should.
I do know about it, and I'm so excited. No, I plan on doing like a Sound of Freedom, Barbie, Oppenheimer. Like I'm just gonna like take the whole week and just every day go to a film. You know, I'm so excited about that film, and Jim Caviezel is obviously a fantastic actor, and I loved him in Passion of the Christ. But I'm very excited about this film, and I love that I know that the filmmakers, it took them a long time to get it out into the world.
Yeah.
And I find that kind of, that kind of tenacity to just be so inspiring and absolutely incredible. It really makes you feel like never, ever give up, truly.
As a mother of two, when you'll go to see this movie, be sure to take some Kleenex with you.
I bet. That's what I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe only parents would understand this fully.
Yeah.
But you're gonna cry, and you're gonna
Okay.
cry a lot because a woman sitting next to me, like a few seats away, she started crying, I believe, on the second minute,
Yeah.
and for
That'll be me.
120 minutes, she was just
Oh.
so.
See, I cry at movies anyway. Like I'm a big crier, so I'm sure that that's going to be me for sure.
Okay, so let's go then this way. The movie that made you cry the most.
Okay, Passion of the Christ was one. Whew, that was tough. Titanic was another. The Notebook was another.
What do you have to cry about in the
Oh
Notebook?
gosh, just their love
They
story.
didn't die.
I know, but it was just so beautiful and just.
Did you know that actors hated each other?
Yes, I heard
They
that.
couldn't stand each other.
Isn't that funny? It's so funny that a lot of Hollywood
Actors.
trivia has that, where it's like you would never know that people
Yeah.
just weren't getting along in a film. You know, they do a good job of covering that up. I don't know what other films have made me cry, but those definitely off the top of my head are the main ones.
So the Titanic is an amazing movie, and part of this amazingness, I believe, is because of James Howard, the soundtrack.
Yes.
The soundtrack is so good.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Music and movies together. I mean, that's the magic. You know, when you have an incredible soundtrack, and then you have a film going with it, it's just incredible. And it's really cool actually because I have a film, and I don't know if you know about this one. It's called Easter Bloody Easter.
I've seen some stuff on it, but I didn't watch the movie.
So I directed this film, and I produced it, and I star in it. It was a lot of work.
Yeah.
The film is going to be coming out this Easter. The plan is that we are going to be releasing in theaters sometime in February.
Oh, it's in production.
It's done. Film is done.
Yeah.
Now we're through distribution.
Yeah, I got it.
So hopefully we're going to be in theaters in the February area, and then releasing on digital sometime this Easter, this coming Easter.
Yeah.
And we have incredible music in this film, just absolutely incredible. Great soundtrack. It's going to be very exciting. And the movie is a comedy horror. People say horror comedy. I don't. I say comedy horror because it truly is a comedy, and then the horror elements come into it. But you can imagine it's about Easter, and there's a lot of demon bunnies, and it's just so much fun.
They're going to be fluffy and cute, just like Gremlins did?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
So next year?
Yeah, next
February,
year.
Maybe.
Yeah, I'm very excited because I made it so that it would be a franchise film. We already have the next two in the works. The writer's already writing number 2. So I'm very excited about it, and I think people are going to really love it. It's the kind of film that if you love comedy and you love horror, it's perfect. It harkens back to all the kind of great comedy horrors that there have been. And it's just so much fun.
Is it PG-13 or rated R?
I don't know what it will be rated actually yet, because we're in the process of doing that. I feel like it'll probably be PG-13, but I don't know sometimes with the horror stuff, because sometimes, like with killings and stuff like that, they make it R, but I don't know if this will be. No, it's nothing too crazy. Like I say, it's really a lot of fun. We have great music in it. There's even some dancing and singing in it, so it's gonna be great.
So it's part horror, part comedy, part musical.
Yeah, kind of.
I believe to get the rated R, you have to swear a lot, and there has to be a lot of blood.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, we definitely have blood. We definitely do swear. I don't know if it's a lot, but we'll see. We'll see. I'll keep you updated on that for sure.
So speaking of a Wallybird and the plans to be a big studio,
Yeah.
so right now I would, for example, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would never say that 20th Century Fox would be bought by Disney, right?
Yeah.
Then after a few years,
I
Disney is
know.
now like almost for sale.
I
And
know.
they say that maybe Apple is going to buy out Disney because they have almost $1 billion loss this year
Yeah.
only, and
Yeah.
it's only July.
I know.
Yeah, then we get Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
The same thing, The Flash, $200 million
I
movie with a
know.
$100 million budget to marketing, flopped. And then we get Sound of Freedom, 14 million budget, 125, I believe, so far.
Yep.
So being an indie studio right now is the
It's
best
a good
time,
one.
right?
It's good to be indie. It's a good time.
Yes. And let's talk about SAG.
Yeah.
And the Writers Guild.
Yes.
They go on strike. So writers got on strike almost 2 months ago,
Yes.
something like this.
Mm-hmm.
A few weeks ago, the actors joined them. So
Yeah.
more than 150,000 people are now on strike. The
Yes.
Hollywood is shut down.
Yes.
But you can work.
Yes.
You can work as an actor because you're not in the guild,
Mm-hmm.
as a director, as a producer, as a screenwriter.
Yes.
Okay, so can you be in a guild if you are an independent filmmaker?
So the short answer of that is yes. The idea is that you can choose to be into it. At some point, you are what's called a must join. You can do so many union productions, and then you must join the union. I have always, because I've been independent, sometimes we do union productions, and sometimes we do non-union. I like the flexibility, but absolutely stand in solidarity with what is going on, because obviously it's very important that we get ahead of everything and we figure this out before all of us are just, our jobs are non-existent.
Because that's not all about the money at this point, right?
No, it's also about AI. That's a huge thing, and I think it's something that we have to talk about, and we have to put into place something that protects us. I mean, that's important. You have insurance on your car, right? Because there potentially could be an accident.
Yeah.
Well, we have to do the same exact thing in this business. We can't just say, oh, well, we'll see what happens. And they're really fighting to be able to have a wage that they can actually live by. And I think for me as an independent studio, that's what we're dealing with all the time, is trying to get funding and
Mm-hmm.
and literally living and figuring out how to do that consistently. So I feel for them, because it's a very difficult situation, and they must be paid fairly. The creatives are the ones who are creating the IP and are creating the things that people love so much. So why are we not paying them while everybody else is getting like billions of dollars? I mean, it's literally crazy. Like, how
but
much
the
they're
companies
making.
share not only the when they earn $1 billion, they
Yeah.
also share, just like right now what is going on in Disney, for example.
Yes.
So the risk you take, the risk-reward ratio.
Sure. But I think that's why, for me as an independent filmmaker, we are taking a huge risk by being independent film, because we don't know if anyone is ever going to pick up our film in distribution. And we might have to self-distribute. We might have to put it out, on YouTube or whatever it is. So there's a huge risk as an independent filmmaker. We never know if we're going to make our our money back on a movie. But I do think that that's why it's so important to keep your budgets low as an independent producer and filmmaker. You don't need $200 million
For sure.
to make a film. That's my feeling about it. You can make a great film for a lot less money, and people can get paid. I mean, you can pay people and they can come in and create and do their things, and everybody leaves happy. But the idea of having to have that much behind a film, I don't necessarily believe in that, because I don't think that it's necessary. I don't think they're putting the money where they could. I think there's ways to do it without having to do it for so much money.
Do something similar to Tom Cruise, what he does. When he produces a movie, he says, okay, I don't need 20 million. I need, for example, 10 million, but I need 5%, 10%.
Yes.
Or
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think that we do that as well on independent film. A lot of people I have hired, for instance, have come on, and I'll say, I don't have that much of XYZ in my budget,
Yeah.
but want to give you points on the back end, or want you to participate in the distribution of this, or whatever that model looks like. And you know, a lot of people are interested in that, and it also gives people an incentive to want to push the film and want to see it do well. And you know, that's the whole name of this game. And I think being at the film festival and going to all the panels and listening to distributors and all of that, you know, you learn so much that this is a business of show. You know, and I think when you recognize that it's a business first, then you're going into it with a completely different mindset. It's lovely to be in a movie, and it's lovely to create and do all that stuff, but it is a business.
If it flops, you won't get a chance to film another one.
You got to work that part of it out first before you just go into it having the fantasy of, oh, I'm making a movie, and that is fantastic, and I love that, and I don't want to ruin anybody's dream, nobody's dreams out there. I don't want to ruin your dreams, but look at it as a business first, and create a business model, create a business plan like you would any other business, and realize that that's where you have to begin in order to make any traction whatsoever, because there is such a thing as distribution and marketing, and all those things matter. And you have to have money to put into it. It's not just the money that you're putting into making the film, but then you get your movie back and, okay, now what? You can't just walk away. You need to promote that film, market that film, get it out to audiences. And film is an exhibition art. So the more that you can exhibit your film, the better off you're going to be. So that's why it's important to you know, work with going into film festivals, getting your movie onto a screen, working with distributors to have it be in theaters if you can. That's huge, and it's really important as an independent filmmaker to do that.
So interesting, you're talking about marketing, and I believe one of the best marketing schemes that we have ever seen in the last maybe even a decade was the Barbie movie. They
Incredible.
spent so much money.
Incredible.
I believe that was $150 million in a budget.
Yes.
So the marketing budget was even higher than the movie itself.
Yes.
Everybody is talking about this movie.
Yeah.
And I believe it grossed in the first weekend even more than Oppenheimer.
Yep. And the most ever by a female director, which is incredible.
Did you see the movie? Oh, not yet?
I haven't seen it yet. No, I'm very excited to see it. I love Greta Gerwig anyway. I think she's a fantastic filmmaker. I loved Lady Bird. I loved her other films. I also love Margot Robbie. She's obviously incredible. And just the whole idea, I grew up with Barbies. So for me, just that whole idea of like female empowerment and Barbie so awesome. I think I'm really excited about that. But I think that it does show you how important marketing is, way more, and you should spend more money in marketing than you do
if you know what you do.
If you know what you're doing. And they did a brilliant job of creating that. Now, of course, the IP of Barbie, the idea that people know that name, it's been around a long time. It's the, you know, the most famous doll probably ever. But that movie could have just been just a Barbie movie. But what they did with the marketing was so brilliant.
Everything is pink.
You wanting to be a part of, everybody's wearing pink, you know? So I love that. And I'm looking at that for the films that we're doing, specifically for my film, Easter Bloody Easter. You know, I'm like, there is so much that we can do around that. And incredibly, it's a holiday. You know, everyone knows what Easter is. Yeah. So I am trying to take a look at that as a filmmaker and as an independent filmmaker and go, what can I do to create the same kind of buzz? Certainly, I don't have the $200 million or whatever that they had, but you can figure it out, and you can do it if you really think and get smart about what people are wanting. And it's really looking at the trends, looking at, you know, seeing what other people are doing. It's important to know reading the trade magazines, really understanding what other filmmakers are doing to put their film out there. You have to know, you have to be well versed in that.
Well, interesting is that I believe this movie Barbie for Margot Robbie is the final one, because she hasn't had any success when she was a leading star.
Really?
She was a success in Wolf of Wall Street.
Great
DiCaprio,
film.
right?
Yes.
And Scorsese.
True.
She was kind of good had a kind of a success with The Focus with Will Smith. So Will Smith.
That's true.
Then she had
Harley Quinn.
That's a flop.
Yeah, it didn't do well.
The Suicide Squads are the flops.
Yeah.
I, Tonya is amazing movie.
Amazing film.
Yeah. amazing film, but that didn't grow so well.
Yeah.
Last year, The Babylon flopped.
Yes, I know. That's
So
so
if this
true.
movie flops, I believe truly Margot is done.
I think it won't, because I think they've already shown how incredible, that it is, in terms of just by numbers. But here's the thing. Yes, we look at it and we go, okay, how much, how much, how much, how much? However, I think there's more to it. What do films, how can they impact society in a way? How can they change the narrative?
That's
They can.
business. Yeah.
Sure,
The
that's
studios
business.
that don't care.
Absolutely. But that's the other thing that we have to look at, not just the numbers. We have to go, what is this doing? The representation in that film, huge. Young girls are seeing themselves now on screen in a different way. Young boys seeing themselves in a different way. So important to see yourself. It really does. Representation matters. And we saw it so much with even Black Panther, how important that film was, literally, to young kids to see themselves and go, wow, that's really important.
You mean for African Americans?
Yeah, for sure. And that's why I'm saying movies have the ability. It's not just, I'm saying it's not just about numbers. It's so much more important to me that we have the ability through cinema to create change and to create these worlds where people see themselves
That's for sure.
and inspire people to do it themselves or tell their story or whatever it is,
Yeah, that's non-negotiable. That's for sure. But
Yeah.
when the studio gets the digits and they see that, for example, 120 million budget, 150 million marketing budget, so you have to gross 2 times more just to get even.
Yeah.
Because 50% is going to the cinema.
Yeah.
So Barbie have to have a minimum of $500 million.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
I think they'll do it. I think they will.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. But, I think just the name alone, Barbie, it's been around for such a long time. I think people will continue to see it.
Let's take a look at the May's premiere of The Mermaid.
Mm.
Flopped.
Yeah.
And I believe the same is going to happen next year with Snow White. Did you see?
Oh, I heard that they're doing one.
Oh my God. They're doing a remake of a 1937 animated film.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Wow.
So the Snow White is not, how do you say? She's not white, she's Hispanic.
Okay.
And so that's not the problem. The problem was that there was a picture of the dwarves.
Oh, I heard this controversy, yes.
And the biggest problem is that a few days ago, so the main star did an interview and she said that in the movie you won't see a princess, a Snow White, which is getting saved by a prince, because it's not 1937. So you take the name and you write a whole different story. Mm-hmm. You pump $200 million, $100 million for a budget. I believe that's a flop.
The thing is that why do they want to do that? That's what I feel. Create something new, become original. We've already seen that. It's already perfect as is. Leave it alone. You know what I mean?
You mean the remakes? Yeah, make a story. Just don't name it the Snow White.
Make it something different.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. I'm not really into the remakes of things. Because I don't get it. I'm like, you can tell something original. It doesn't need to be the same thing. Or if you are going to change it in that way, then it's a different story. And it's not Snow White then.
Did you watch The Lion King, the movie?
The animated version.
No, the animated version was amazing.
Of
1994,
course.
yeah.
Yes, I don't think I saw the new one. Was there a new one
in the
out?
year 2000, they filmed.
I did see it.
It was creepy.
Yeah.
The kind of real animals talk.
I know.
And it was like frame by frame,
I don't think
frame
that
by
ever
frame.
works. I don't think it ever works to see the animals.
It got $1 billion.
I know.
Why? Why would you go to see this?
I don't know. I think it's the
creepy movie.
nostalgia. It's the nostalgia. People love the
For kids like
original. Probably. And then you want your kids to see it. You know what I mean?
Speaking of scenes in movies where you cried, oh my God, Lion King.
Oh, that's another one, Lion King. Yes.
That's a trauma for all children, right?
So traumatic.
Yes,
oh my
for sure.
Gosh, that was just absolutely terrible. I'm still traumatized.
Yeah. That's a masterpiece.
An absolute
one of the
masterpiece. I
best
agree. I agree. Also, those films back then during that animation time, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Lion King, Aladdin,
Yeah,
that was a renaissance time of Disney.
yeah,
I mean, that was a time that will, I feel like, never come again. It was just like that moment in time where they just were just incredible. The animation was beautiful, the storytelling, the
yes.
music, and it was just the right team. They just had like all of it, ready to go. So
Look, no agenda,
no,
no agenda.
true, just entertainment.
Just straight entertainment for
Hmm.
kids.
Yeah,
Once again, last year's Disney and Pixar's movies, animated movies, flopped.
I know.
This agenda, this kind of agenda, this, and that.
We've
The
gotten away
parents
from the
say,
entertainment. We've
thank you,
gotten
but
away
no.
from it. I grew up watching movie musicals. Certainly, Gene Kelly was, I still am just fascinated by him. And, you know, I'm actually making a movie musical. I'm directing a movie musical about the SATs, and it takes place in high school.
SAT, yeah, the exam.
Yes, yes. And it's currently being written right now. It's in development. And I'm so excited to make a musical because the musicals that have come out over the past couple of years have just not been good. Because, again, we're not entertaining people. We're not letting people go to the movies for an hour and a half and forget about all of their worries.
Yeah,
That's what movies were made for.
yeah,
And especially the musicals, when you think about what's going on in the world back then, all kinds of stuff. So people would go just so that they could be happy.
yeah.
And I think we've gotten away from that. And I think that's when I was saying earlier about I believe that we can get back there. I believe that we can. It's just that we've become a greedy society, and we've become a society that cares too much sometimes about the agenda and not about entertaining people and taking people away for an hour and a half. And I think if we can get back to that place, you can still make an impact with a film. You can still inspire people, give them hope. People's lives are not easy. Not everybody has just this perfect life. And if you can take them away for an hour and a half and give them joy, make them laugh, make them cry, whatever it is, that is your job as
Amen.
a filmmaker.
Amen, for sure.
Yeah.
And the movies can have a huge impact. For example, mentioned before, Sound of Freedom made a huge impact, and they're now talking about the legislations, the rules, the laws.
Incredible.
Just straight movie, almost indie movie. It was, I believe, it was filmed by Disney. They didn't want to release it.
Yeah.
Children company, a company that is making movies for children, don't want to release a movie about the sex traffic of children. Crazy. So the small studio bought it out, crowdfunded, I believe.
Incredible.
And then
so inspiring. It really is. And Mark Ruffalo said, I saw they had a thing the other day where he said people should go to independent film.
For sure.
And I love that. I love that certainly as an independent filmmaker because you know why? Because independent has been here. We've been here and we've been doing it. And we're not the studios who are greedy or have this other agenda. We want to make good films. So yes, you should go to independence and you should support independence because we're the ones who have been doing it and nothing has changed. It's been happening since the 1950s. We've been out here doing this. We've been in these streets. So support us, support independent film. Go to the independent, the film festivals, all those stuff. If you have friends that are, independent filmmakers, support what they're doing, especially if they're crowdfunding and that kind of stuff. It's important. We need people like that who want to take people away and entertain them and take them through stories that could make a difference like that, like Sound of Freedom. And, certainly they had a budget, but they're not spending this crazy thing just for what? For what reason?
Just do a good movie. People are going to talk about it.
Yes, exactly.
It
all comes back to make a good film. I mean, it sounds so simple, but it's the truth, and I believe it begins with the script. I really do. Have a script that is good and that before you ever even think about getting into production. For instance, with my film Easter Bloody Easter, I had people read that script up and down. And people said to me, they literally laughed out loud at the script. And I said, that's great.
Yeah.
That's a good sign that you're laughing out loud at the script because then when we put it to visuals, you should be able to take people away for that time that they're going in there. That's what filmmaking is supposed to do, like a good book or music. It takes you away. It takes you to a time and a place you've never even knew could exist.
Yeah.
And that's what great filmmaking does.
Well, speaking of musicals, I believe the whole genre is dead. In the last few
Mainly.
years, maybe the West Side Story, because
Yeah.
that was Spielberg.
Yeah, I know.
If that would be done with
I
another
know.
director, no one would even
It's painful,
notice
and
it.
I actually did not like his version. I love Steven Spielberg. I think he's an incredible director. Certainly, I particularly didn't like that version of West Side Story. I felt it was a little flat, and I'm a musical theater kid, so for me, I was just like, I just, they don't make them like they used to anymore like that, and I am really trying to go like, let's make it like it used to be, where you were taken away for this time, and
Diane,
had no troubles.
listen, let's name the genres that are dead right now. So musicals are dead as a genre for the 10, maybe even
Mainly,
20
yeah.
years. Comedy is
Yeah.
dead.
Yep.
Action movies are dead.
Totally.
Totally.
Yep.
Expendables 4 is coming out this August. Okay, maybe.
I don't know anybody will even see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. So those genres are dead. What do we have right now? The comics movies,
Horror.
horror, which is
Yeah. Some
Scream
good, some
5,
not good.
Scream 6,
Yeah.
Insidious. They're doing well.
They're doing well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
I know.
Tragedy, no. Historic movies, maybe. So
Yeah.
Ridley Scott has filmed one, Napoleon, Gladiator, Gladiator 2 is.
Yep.
We just see comic movies, and I believe the biggest problem with indie movies is marketing. Just people like me, we don't even know about your movies.
Absolutely.
We have no idea that there is some kind of a movie that is going to be great, interesting, with a great script, with great music, with great
Yeah.
talents on set and such.
Yeah.
We just have no idea about
I
it.
know, because it's the machine, and we're not part of the machine when
Yeah.
you're an indie. So how do you do it? How do you get your movie out there? And I think that's the thing. It's almost like guerrilla style marketing.
Yeah.
That you have to do. Word of mouth, getting people, doing screenings, doing like event cinema, having screenings in different cities, that kind of stuff. It's very difficult, and I won't say that it's easy at all to be an independent filmmaker. It's not, because the studios have all the money. You see the billboards, and then it makes you want to go see a film because they're just pushing it down your face. You open up your phone on social
Yeah.
media, everything is an ad for something else. So, you have to, as an independent filmmaker, just believe in what you have made. And I think the more that you believe in it and you continue to push it out there, hopefully it will catch on like wildfire. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the idea, and we have seen that with independent film in certain instances, that indie films can do really well, but it's also important for them to have a marketing plan behind them as well. You can't just say, I've now made the movie, now all my friends are going to go see it. Well, you need more than that to go see it.
Yeah, for sure. I
I
also believe that indie movies associate people with get associated with art house.
Yes.
Not a lot of people like
Correct.
art house.
Correct.
It's hard to understand.
Yes.
9 out of 10 movies are not as good, to be honest with you.
Totally.
So indie movie is not an art house.
Exactly. That's why, if you can be an independent and you can get into an AMC or Regal Theaters or things like that, obviously that's, it's very few and far between. But if you can do that, it's important. Why, though, it is so important for film festivals? Especially some films will never see the light of day in terms of being in a movie theater.
Yeah.
So being able to screen at a film festival is really important, because you get to see your movie on a big screen, and that may never
Which is the
happen.
purpose of a movie.
Yeah.
To be on a big screen.
Exactly.
Like literally on a big
On
screen.
a huge screen.
What are the requirements to get your movie to the movie theater?
In a theater?
Yeah.
So you have to work with a distribution company and a sales agent usually, who has those relationships to literally get you in those doors, to say, hey, we're going to contact places that do event cinema, places that have an indie arm. Some theatrical, big movie houses do. They do show independent film. And I think the other thing is that you also can work with, there are companies that can sort of show in different cities how well your film will do depending on the subject matter, and if there is an audience for it. So I think as an independent filmmaker, if you can show distributors in particular that your movie can do well in a certain area, again, do all that research, do all of that work, then you have an opportunity to be seen in a theater.
And for example, if you get in the beginning you get 100 screens, and if it does good,
then you can keep going.
Yeah. You can ask for more screens.
Or they'll play it for a longer time. You know, like you can stay in those cities for a longer period of time. Maybe not 1 week, but they say, oh, we'll put you on for 3 weeks or things like that. That's certainly one way of doing it. Another way of doing it, and I don't know how many independent producers still do this, but we used to do it back in the day. It was called four-walling. And that would mean that you would buy out the theater for like a set price. And then you would actually promote the film and put it out there.
You sell the tickets even.
You sell the tickets, and you actually work with the theater to get a percentage of that. So people do that. You know, I've heard of it, and we did do that many years ago on a film. It works. You know, I think again it depends on the film genre. It depends on what the subject matter is. If there's an audience for the film. So, you know, there's all types of ways, but I think the most important thing is to know who your audience is as a filmmaker.
Because
you must know who your audience is, because then that way you can literally create a marketing plan based on who that audience is. If you don't know who that is, then where can you even begin? You know, so have that in mind even when you're beginning to create a project. What is the audience for this film? It's going to be so much easier on the other side of things once you're in distribution.
How important to you is foreign market? Europe, China?
It's important. The thing is that usually films have to do well domestically here to do for foreign markets to say, oh, we really want that. Again, depends on the genre. Horror does really well actually in the foreign market in certain areas. In particular, you know, they like that in certain places. Same thing, you know, with like historical dramas, things like that. That can sometimes do really well in the foreign market. It really just depends, but you absolutely want to sell each territory, certainly as many as you can, all over the world. And that also, I think, you know, having a base on, you know, having people see like social media, having your audience be wider than just, you know, U.S. cities. You know, you do want to promote that, which is, you know, again, having your movie in different languages, very important. You have to do that.
And who does that?
So you work with companies that can actually do that. I mean, you can do that work yourself, but it's a lot of work. So you can work with people where you have transcripts, and then you can get it dubbed in those things. A lot of times, once you have a distributor come on, and you have like a foreign distributor, they will have all those sort of like check marks of like how you get it in each one of these languages. But from our point of view, in terms of the production side, you have to have all that stuff when you're done with a film. You have to have like you know, an entire transcript, subtitles, things like that. So you work with companies that do that. That's all stuff that what's called deliverables, and you give that to the distributor. And then from there, they put it out into the world.
So, like 90%, maybe even more, 99% of the movies right now are filmed digitally, right?
Yeah, a lot.
So when you deliver your movie to the cinema, you just deliver what? A link, a flash drive, hard drive?
You know, it depends. So if you're only gonna do one theater, they'll have a specific thing. They do have drives that can kind of go around. It's much easier than it used to be, certainly. I mean, I remember back in the day when I made the film Iowa, we made that on film.
Film?
Yes, real film. And
you have to make copies of that.
Yes, and we had film cans just stacked up in the office. It was just absolutely insane.
For instance, how much of space did it take for Iowa movie?
I mean, like this whole entire wall right here, just from top to bottom.
Straight film?
Just film.
In boxes?
Yeah.
Wow.
A lot. It took up a lot of space. So the fact now that we're, mainly digital is amazing, and most theaters now are digital.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of places anymore that actually do the film reels anymore. So there's a system. Each theater's a little bit different. They like it different ways. Again, this is something that you work with your distributor on. And once you have the film, complete and done, you have your surround sound and your Dolby mix and all that kind of stuff so that it can go into a theater. You make what's called a DCP, and that is your digital print, literally. And then that's the thing that goes everywhere, usually on a hard drive, and that goes to theater to theater. Hopefully it gets there, and then you put it in their system, and then they can
Yeah.
play it.
So, for instance, my Home Unknown, it's a 90 minutes movie.
Yes.
That was 4K. What is the resolution?
Yes,
4K.
4K.
And if you know from a technical stand of view, what's the size of a file?
Yes.
100 gigabytes more?
Yes, I don't remember the actual file size, but it's very large. I mean, it's a very large file. The thing is that everything now with technology has become so fast, and with the cameras, the way that it's translating onto the drives and stuff, it's all compatible. So, for instance, when we saw it there at the Chinese theater, it was absolutely incredible to see this film because we shot it 4K. It looks so stunning. I mean, it looks like we could just like go out and touch it crisp. Yeah, exactly. So beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Okay. So what are the core values of Wallybird as a company? What do you stand for?
So we stand for diversity and equality. And what does that mean? That means when I was producing many years ago, a lot of times I was the only female, working in a crew of mainly white dudes. And I said, you know what? I want this to be different. I want to give people a voice who haven't historically been given a voice. And who is that? That's females. That's people who are diverse. And we've been able to do that on every single production that we've had. Since 2018, Wallybird has had 14 different productions, which is really incredible for an independent film house. And I always tell people I'm just getting started. So I love what we do. And when you look at our sets, it looks like the world we live in. It looks like a lot of females on the crew, which is awesome. I love giving females an opportunity. It's so important. But also the stories that we tell. It's important that I tell diverse stories. I want people to feel represented. I want them to feel seen. And our world, our culture, when you look at America, my family is from Croatia originally, and Croatia and Italy and Poland. And, they all came here with the purpose of creating a better life. This is my ancestors, certainly. And in so many ways, that idea of the American dream has been here, and it's been lost. And I feel like we're coming around to this again. And for me specifically, for Wallybird, what I stand for is you come here and you want to, wherever you're from, whatever your background is you want to create a better life for you and your family. And that value system, that idea is so beautiful to me. And I think that what we do at Wallybird is give people that opportunity to share their stories, share their culture, share things that we haven't seen before. So we do that on every single project that we've done, and we're going to continue doing it. It's very, very important to me.
Give me the priorities of hiring, for example, talent or diversity?
Well, hopefully you get both, but I will say that diversity is important to me.
More important than talent?
I think there's a lot of talent in diversity, and I think it just hasn't been given the opportunity to be seen. So for me, it's not, I will never hire someone that is just not right for something. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't mean that they're not talented. Everyone is talented. I can tell you that. It's just, are you right for it?
Yeah.
And to me, that's what it comes down to. Are you right for this? Are you right for the role? Are you right to tell this story? And I think that more than anything is most important to me, because for me as a director, or when I'm working with directors that I bring in or whatnot, It's their job to help take that out of somebody and get that little sparkle of somebody and pull it out of them. That is truly their job. And as an actor, it's your job to bring that sparkle, to bring that gift that you have. And I think I don't look at it, I think, as diversity or talent, because I truly believe everyone is talented. It was so hard when I was casting my last film, Easter Bloody Easter. It was so difficult. There was this one role in particular. I saw so many great people for this role. It was almost impossible to cast the one person that we ended up casting because they were all fantastic and they were all different. They were all different looking.
So how did you choose?
At the end of the day, I looked at my cast, I looked at the story I was telling, and I filled it in from there. And I said, this person has to play this because they're the right person for the role.
So would you cast Marie Antoinette as an African American, just like Netflix did?
Sure, why not?
Because she was white.
Of course, but maybe that's not the story I'm telling. Maybe I'm not telling the true story of Marie Antoinette. They did it with Bridgerton. I thought that was fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
But can you do vice versa? Can you hire a white person to act as an African American in the movie?
Well,
For example, you like MLK, right?
yes, of course.
Would you consider hiring a white person to act, to be as an MLK in your movie?
No, I couldn't.
It doesn't sound good, right?
It doesn't sound good.
Right.
It doesn't sound good, but it's also, yes, I feel like that in particular, it would be, I don't think that would be very respectful.
But that's racism.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But an African American can act as a Marie Antoinette, which was a white person.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, certainly. I think what it comes down to is I don't think it's giving people of color roles that are specifically, historically, people who are white. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's giving people of color an opportunity to play roles that they maybe normally wouldn't get. For instance, people of color historically have gotten a lot of like police roles or the sort of not the lead, they're sort of maybe sometimes have been in the background. Of course you have, certain people like Denzel,
yeah.
Of course.
Now his son is amazing.
Absolutely amazing. So I think that's really what we're looking at here, is that just the idea that you have a lead in a movie, that it doesn't necessarily just have to be a white person, that it could be somebody who is foreign, who is...
Oh, that's for sure.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think historically when we look at something like Marie Antoinette or MLK or things like that, personally, no. I would not hire somebody who was outside of that ethnic background to do that, just because I think that would be disrespectful, in my opinion. But I think if you look at a story like Bridgerton and you say, well, they're taking the idea of what this world was, and that you could fit into it. And what I look at it is like, wow, interesting that could have been the world, but it wasn't. So I think that is what Shonda Rhimes is doing there, is she's trying to look outside the box and say, look at this world that we've created. It could have been that way. It wasn't historically, but... Like
a multiverse.
Yeah, absolutely.
In other world, the MLK would be white, for example.
Sure. And maybe that is an interesting story that we were to look at it. Maybe white people would look at that whole thing differently. Maybe any other race would look at it differently if it were put that way. I don't know. I don't know that I'm the person to tell that story, and I think that's what it really gets down to, is that when I want to tell stories, or when I'm looking at scripts or I'm reading scripts, I'm really looking at, does this script have value in terms of what it can do for people? Does it provide inspiration? Does it provide hope? Will people feel themselves seen? Is this a story that needs to be told? Specifically with My Home Unknown, there hasn't been a lot of stories about a woman living on the street with schizophrenia. That for me was so interesting. I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting story. Something really hasn't very much been done. Now, could someone else played that role. Yaz wrote that movie, the woman who wrote the film. She wrote it, she directed, and she starred in it. So it was a vehicle for her to share, that story. But we maybe could have put anybody in that role. You know what I'm saying? But still, at the end of the day, the story that we were getting was that this is a woman, so her experience is going to be different on the street than a man's experience. And then she has schizophrenia. So now this is somebody's experience on the street who also has a mental illness and is just not on the street. So that kind of stuff, I think, for me, is what we stand behind at Wally Bird. I'm always looking to do the thing that maybe we haven't really seen before. And I think that's exciting. That's like it's just a very exciting thing because we just haven't seen it. So it's like going into a store and, oh, that's cool. I haven't seen that before. I want to buy that.
Yeah.
It gets you excited about it.
Speaking of sexism in the movies, so 2006, I believe that was the year when two almost identical movies came out. The first one was with Emil Hirsch called Into the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen the movie?
Yes.
Incredible movie,
Incredible
right?
movie, yes.
Based on the book.
Yes.
And I believe 2006, maybe a year later, there was another movie called Just Wild with Reese Witherspoon. You saw this movie?
I did not see it. I love Reese Witherspoon, love her so much, but I have heard of it, did not see it.
It was very similar movie to Into the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing movie as well.
Yeah.
So that was a man character, that was a woman character. No problem with this, absolutely. So almost kind of an identical story was told from a different perspective.
Yeah.
Amazing, no problem with this.
Yes.
But for example, if that movie was, Into the Wild was based on a movie, on a book that wrote the guy that was on that trip.
Sure.
If that guy was, for example, he was white, but if they would cast African American, I believe someone would be disappointed. But they would never do the vice versa. If the guy would be black, African American, and if they would hire a white guy to play his role, that would be a huge impact.
Here's the thing. I think from the beginning of Hollywood is not that old, remember? It's not really
100 years.
Yeah. That's not that old. Considering we have civilizations who have been here thousands of years. When you look at since the beginning of Hollywood, I think really and truly at the end of the day, what it's about is with everything that has gone on politically, certainly over the years, Hollywood is a place where there just hasn't been the opportunity for those people to take those spaces because they wouldn't allow it. And I think that's the thing that we're talking about. We're talking about the opportunity to say, well, just because you are something, you're not going to get this. You're not going to get this role. You're not going to have this opportunity.
If you're black, if you're...
Correct. And I think that's the thing that we're changing here. And now
that's racism. That's for sure. That's the problem.
This time period.
Really.
You know what I mean? So I think that's the important part is that we're going in the right direction there, going like, yes, you should be given opportunity, especially if you are a person who is living here. You want to make a difference in the world. You want to be, somebody who inspires people and inspires hope in people. So I think that's the thing. I see what you're saying in terms of that, and I think it's a difficult thing because I don't think anybody is saying, oh, just because you're white or whatever or not, you're not going to no longer have those roles. I just think it's important that we look and we go, well, who else is out here? There has to be other stories that have been told. There has to be other ways of seeing the world through other people's eyes. Your journey in the world is different than my journey.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting. I want to know about your journey, just like you want to know about mine. This is what's so fantastic that you do this podcast, because you're talking to people who are from all different journeys and walks of life. So as people who are filmmakers and people who have the ability to tell stories, and specifically for me, because I'm somebody who hires people in roles of leadership, I want to look and say, who's the best person for that role? 100%.
Based on fit, who fits the most?
Absolutely.
Doesn't care.
Absolutely. 1,000,000%, that's always going to be the first and foremost thing. Who's the best person for this role? And secondly, I want to fill my sets with people who look different, who are different, who haven't had those opportunities to be on set before because they just haven't been given that opportunity. I want to be a champion for people and say, oh, you haven't really done this before? Okay, well, come on in and learn how to do it. Because I think that if you give people that opportunity, they will add value. And that's what it's about. Can you come into a room and add value? To me, that's important. So I don't care truly at the end of the day what your cultural background is you're going to add value.
Yeah.
What I think is important is that you can see yourself in many different places on a set, and that is inspiring, especially for young women, just because we just haven't historically seen it. So it's important to me that I do that, because at some point I'm going to leave this earth. And what am I leaving behind? I'm leaving, I hope, the films that I've created and also how I've treated people.
Well, you can say that the world hasn't seen a lot of women in the Hollywood. Meryl Streep is famous for 40 or 50 years.
Sure, yes, absolutely. I don't think that it's seeing women in those particular roles. I think it's seeing women in the role of cinematographer or in the role of director. When we think of directors, who do we think about? We think about Steven Spielberg, Martin Scorsese, Quentin Tarantino. We can name these dudes off like that. It's very rare that we have women that we can say that. We can say Catherine Bigelow, Jane Campion, Greta Gerwig. Yes, you know. And what I'm saying is that there is a movement here that more and more women can see themselves in that leadership position. And I think that's fantastic. That's so important, because there should be space for everybody. I mean, and that's really truly at the end of the day. That is, I think that's what this country was built on, is that you can come from somewhere else and you can make it. My great-grandfather was a sea captain in Croatia. And they came to America. And when he came here, he cleaned spittoons, literally. He went from the highest of the high to the lowest of the low. Why? Because there was an opportunity here. And that's what's so fantastic. That's what's so important. And I think that's something that we cannot forget. If you're willing to do that and you're willing to go into the, you know, and do the hard work, you can create the life that you want. But people that are in leadership positions like me have to see other people and give them those opportunities. And that's why it's important. That's why Wally Bird Productions is a place that I want you to be different. I want to tell your story. I want to hear about you. Because why not? We have seen those other stories. And I'm going to tell all kinds of different stories. And I say that we are all genre. I don't just tell one genre. I don't tell just dramas or just comedies. We run the gamut of it. And it's exciting. You know, I hope that we continue, all of us collectively as a human spirit, that we all want to see how everybody has a different journey.
Yeah, but in the end of the day, still the people that vote with their dollars are going to dictate what kind of movies they want to see. I'm all in for the possibilities and chances for women, for African American, Chinese, everyone in the world to get their chance. But if you are a woman or a black guy or a black woman, Chinese, but if you do a shitty product, the market doesn't value it. They say, I'm not paying for this movie. I'm not paying for your product or service. That's it.
No, you can have a shitty product no matter what background you have.
For sure.
It's about the product.
You mentioned Catherine Bigelow. Yes, someone can say she was a wife of James Cameron. Yes, but she was the one that filmed that film with Keanu Reeves.
Hurt Locker, she did.
Hurt Locker, she did in 2012. But before that, back in 1990s, she filmed an action movie that was incredible.
Yes.
They made a remake of that movie a few years ago and it flopped because the original one was amazing.
Yeah.
No one gave a shit that she was a woman in a director's chair.
Yeah.
She did amazing product.
Yeah, I think that what's so astounding about it is that it was a woman doing this action film, which seemed unheard of, really, up until that time. And I think nowadays it's not so, oh my God, that's so crazy. She was certainly a legendary in terms of a fire starter of doing that and saying, I'm going to do this. And she has had her own success away from James Cameron, certainly. He's brilliant. I mean, he's also brilliant. Two incredibly talented people. But she really carved out a lane for herself, which I think is good. And what did it come down to? She made a damn good movie.
Yes.
That's what it comes down to. You know, you can be certainly every color of the rainbow. Is the film good or not? And I think that's why I was saying to you earlier, it comes back to the product. It comes back to the script. It comes back to what is it that we're actually creating? What's the message that we're saying? You know, and I think audiences are smart nowadays. I mean, I do. I think people, that's why some movies flop. They can't just, they're going to put out the same old thing again. People aren't going to do it. They've gotten smarter. We had to sit home and watch everything for a whole year because we couldn't go anywhere. And people are sick and tired of seeing crappy things. They're not into it. They're like, I want to be inspired. I think we're seeing a tide turn here. People are like, that's why Sound of Freedom is so amazing, because people are saying, no, wait a minute. This is important, and it actually inspires me to want to go out and make change and make this world a better place. We have to make this for our children, for their children, you know. And I think that's certainly the goal in mind. That's certainly what I'm trying to do. And I think that when we look at it as a collective, you know, we're all just here for such a short amount of time. So try and do your best to make the best products that you can in the amount of time that you're here. We don't get forever. There is no such thing. So
as far as we know.
As far as we know.
Yeah. Diane, let's get back to a 7-year-old, to a 10-year-old Diane that was watching old movies with her father.
Yeah.
If someone told her that in 30 years you're going to be premiered in the Chinese theater with her own movie, would you believe it?
Oh, wow. I think the answer is yes. I would believe that. I believed it then. I mean that. I visualized it then, that I could do that. I saw myself there, you know, on set with Katharine Hepburn. How I got there, I would never have believed that would have happened. But I think I just had a knowing in myself that I was meant to do this. Standing there at Chinese theater that day was just a full circle moment for me. And it was so emotional the whole day because it was so important. And I got to do it while my parents are alive. And that was so important to me. It was so important that they knew how important that moment was, and that they have supported me all these years and have stood beside me, cheering me on. And it's just one of those moments that is just like a pinch me moment.
On my podcast, I always have this last question. So let's have two assumptions with you.
Okay.
So assumption number one is that the president, let's assume that the president of the United States is the most powerful man in the world, okay? Assumption number two is you become the president of the USA. The first woman ever, you become the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Once you go into the office, into the Oval Office, the Secret Service comes at you and they say, Diane, we have all the answers in the world. We know the truth. We know everything. We're on your side. We can tell you everything you want to know. What would be your first question?
I love this question. Oh, okay. Are aliens real?
No. You gotta be kidding. You gotta give me another question.
Okay. What would I want to know? Oh man. That's so tough. There's so many things I would want to know. I guess I would say, you know, who's really calling the shots here? Who's really the one making the decisions?
If not me, as the president, right? Then who?
Yeah.
Who's my boss?
I want to know who do I have to go ask? You know, who is? I think that's something that I've always thought, even as like a kid. I'm just like, who's the one making all these decisions? You know, we see that we have a Senate and we see all these things, but I'm like, is anybody really? I don't know. Are they really doing anything? How does this work? You know, how does this really work behind these closed doors? And I think it would be probably a pretty interesting answer. I wonder who they would open the door and show me would be sitting behind that desk.
That's a great script for a movie, don't you
It
think?
is. It's a great script for a
Controversial.
movie.
So Diane, thank you for your time. Thank you for your energy. You're very positive. I saw that on Instagram. I was wondering, who are your parents?
Yeah.
How did you end up being so positive and looking through the positive lens into this freaking world
I
that is
know.
freaking out every moment?
Oh, that means a lot. Thank you so much for saying that. I think positivity is infectious, and I think it's important because life is hard. And I think that if you can just be really grateful at the end of the day, that you can even smile, like that's really important. Share your smile with somebody because they may need it.
For sure. Amen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.